Picture this. It's 2 in the morning, your data pipeline just crashed, and the culprit is a language model that decided to wrap its JSON response in a friendly little explanation. Sure, here's your data, followed by the actual payload your parser chokes on. If you've shipped anything to production with large language models, you know this pain intimately. Today we're going to fix it for good by mastering structured outputs that hold up no matter what the model throws at you. Let's start with why models break structure in the first place. A language model is, at its core, a probability machine predicting the next token. When you simply ask it to return JSON, you're hoping that probability lands on valid syntax every single time, across millions of requests. It won't. You'll get trailing commas, unescaped quotes inside strings, markdown code fences, hallucinated fields, and the occasional apology essay. The fundamental shift you need to make is moving from asking nicely to constraining the output at the generation level, so invalid structure becomes literally impossible to produce. That's where JSON schema enters the picture. A schema is a contract that describes exactly what valid output looks like, the field names, their types, which ones are required, and what values they're allowed to take. When you pass a schema to a provider that supports constrained decoding, the model is forced to sample only tokens that keep the output conforming to that schema. This isn't a suggestion the model might ignore. It's a hardrail. The difference in reliability between prompt-based JSON and schema-constrained JSON is the difference between hoping and knowing. Let me make this concrete. Say you're extracting customer support tickets. Your schema defines an object with a priority field that's an enum of low, medium, and high, a category string, and a needs_escalation boolean. Crucially, you mark all 3 as required and set additional properties to false. Now the model cannot invent a 4th priority level, cannot return priority as a number, and cannot sneak in an extra field your downstream code never expected. That additional properties flag is the single most underrated defense against silent schema drift, so reach for it on every object you define. But a schema only describes shape, not meaning. And that's where people get burned. A field can be a perfectly valid string and still be semantically wrong. So lean on the constraints the spec gives you. Use enums instead of free text strings wherever the set of answers is finite. Use minimum and maximum on numbers to keep a confidence score between 0 and 1. Use min length and max length to prevent empty strings or runaway essays. Every constraint you encode is a class of bug you've eliminated before a single request runs, and it doubles as documentation for the next engineer. Now think about nesting and optionality, because this is where real-world schemas get fragile. Deeply nested objects multiply the chances of partial failures, so flatten aggressively when you can. For optional data, be deliberate. A field that's sometimes absent should either be excluded from required or explicitly allow a null type, like typed string or null. Ambiguity here is what produces those maddening intermittent failures that pass 95% of the time and fail exactly when the stakes are highest. Finally, treat the schema as one layer in a defense-in-depth strategy, not a silver bullet. Validate the returned object against your schema again on your own side, because providers have bugs too. Wrap parsing and error handling that retries with a clarifying message when something does slip through. And log every validation failure, so you can tighten the schema over time. Structure plus validation plus graceful retries is what turns a flaky demo into infrastructure you can sleep through the night on. So there's your blueprint. Constrain at generation, encode meaning with enums and bounds, handle optionality with intention, and validate defensively. Do that, and your pipeline stops breaking at 2 in the morning. Build the contract, enforce the contract, and let the model work for you instead of against you.